In Lesson 9.1, we're going to take a look at metric units of length, of length, mass, and capacity. So what is the metric system? Well, the metric system is used to measure a few things. We measure weight, we measure length, or we measure volume using powers of 10. And a meter, which has the abbreviation of a little m, is used to measure length. Mass is how much an object weighs. A gram, which is abbreviated with a little g, is used to measure mass. Which is really just weight. Like we use pounds and ounces in the United States, but most other countries in the world use grams. Capacity is how much an object can hold inside. Like volume. And in the metric unit system, we use liters, which gets abbreviated with a capital L because a lowercase l looks like a 1. So they use a capital L. So a liter is used to measure volume. Or capacity. Okay, so now what we're going to do in the first few examples here is we're going to talk about the different types of units within the length, mass, and capacity. So pause the video if you need to before moving on. But what we're going to do down here on the side is we're going to write next to each one, we're going to put what are the units for that type of measurement. So for length, and I want you to write these down. Whoops, forgot my T. Length. There we go. So for length, we'll start with the largest, which is kilometer. And that is a km. Then we have meter. And there's other units in between, but these are the ones that we usually use. Centimeter, which is cm. And the smallest is millimeter, which is mm. So we're going to choose a unit for length. A classroom is much shorter than a kilometer, we use the abbreviations, but it's longer than a centimeter or a millimeter. That's hard to. Or millimeter. The most appropriate unit of measure would be to use meters. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the ones for mass. Change my color. For mass, the largest one is kilogram, and that'll be kg. Next comes gram, which is just a g. And then we really just talk about milligrams after that. Again, there are other units, and that's an mg. There are other units in between, but they're not used very often. Okay, so let's choose an appropriate metric unit of mass. So a sewing needle. Well, the mass or weight of a sewing needle is much less than a paper clip. So I would say a sewing needle is really light, so I would go with milligram. What about a compact disc or a CD? The mass of a CD is much greater than the mass of an eyelash, so we could use grams to weigh a CD. Okay, so that's length and mass. Make sure you write all those units down so you know what your options are. We're going to scroll down and do capacity now. Okay, so let's change our color one more time. Let's go purple. Okay, so our options for capacity are, we have kiloliter, which will be K and a capital L, so it doesn't look like a 1, liter, capital L, and milliliter, oops, which is M and a big L. Okay, so metric unit of capacity, a kitchen sink. How much water can a kitchen sink hold? It's much smaller than 2 or 3 bathtubs, so, but it's still pretty big, so I would use liter to measure how much a sink can hold. What about a shampoo bottle? Well, that's less than a bottle of juice, and shampoo bottles are not very large, so I would use milliliter. Okay, so that's what you're going to do. In this section, you're just going to pick which unit you're going to use to measure each item. Okay, so look back at your options for weight, length, and capacity and figure out what the best unit would be. And we'll check your work in class.